Burner Podcast Network presents
The Dispatch.
Hey, this is Arash. You're tuned into The Dispatch, a 15-minute-ish, raw, unedited field report burner podcast's little brother, where we check in with the heartbeat and soul of our global burner community. It is 188 days till the man burns as of this recording, and I am on the phone right now with Rat Lady. Rat Lady, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Hey, so good to have you on.
Oh, thank you.
Where am I connecting with you? Where in the world are you right now?
I am in southern Arizona in a little town called Picture Rocks.
Cool. And you just celebrated your 70th birthday at Saguaro, man. Am I remembering this right?
I will be celebrating my 70th birthday in April at Saguaro Man.
Nice. I love that. I love it because more than anything, like what I always tell people is that if we had like the one single thing that I get all burners agree on, we don't agree on a lot of things, but the one single thing is there's no age limit to play.
Absolutely not.
Well, to full disclosure to the listeners, you and I have already had like a little chat before this, and we had like some vague direction of like where this conversation's going. And I know that the big takeaway for me was that a lot of this conversation is going to be about radical inclusion.
Yes.
One way or another. But let's get to know you real quick. So first of all, where'd you get the name Rat Lady?
I actually had service rats for 12 years before they changed the service animal laws to now the only animals you're allowed to have as a service animal are dogs and miniature horses.
I had no idea rats were service animals.
Yes. Mine would alert me to spasms in my neck and shoulders. Since I don't have normal sensation, by the time I feel them, they're past the point of being easily dealt with. They would feel them when they were just barely starting, and they would alert me so I could stretch or take meds before it got out of hand.
Oh, wow, that is amazing. I've always known they're super smart. How did they alert you?
They'd lick the side of my neck or the side of my face because they would ride on my shoulder.
Oh my, that is amazing. Okay.
And I did know of one other service rat, a diabetic lady. If her blood sugars would get out of whack, her rat would go into her purse and bring her medication. Oh
my God, it's the cutest thing I've ever heard in my life. This is immediately one of my favorite conversations ever. So tell us real quickly about yourself. You're lead at Mobility Camp at Burning Man, and that's been going on for how many years?
I've been doing that for about 13 years. Mm-hmm. And then I'm also one of the ranger leads for the Rangers at Saguaro Man, the Saguaro Man Rangers.
Yeah. And how big is Mobility Camp on Playa?
Mobility Camp varies from about our lowest at about 35 to our highest at a little over 50.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's not a small joint.
No.
Yeah.
And we generally serve up to 2,000 burners during the week.
That's amazing. What is something, because I think a lot of us have some vague understanding. A lot of times when we talk about camps, we have some vague understanding. But what is something that the average person would be surprised to learn about Mobility Camp?
I think they'd be surprised to learn that we practice radical inclusion and radical self-reliance. We are not caregivers. That's not what we do. What we do is give you the tools to enable you to be radically self-reliant.
I love that. It's like so aligned with, like concepts like servant leadership. Like it's empowering each other to be able to do more. That's what brings us out there to begin with, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are surprised when they first contact us, especially from other countries, to find out that every camper is required to work 4 4-hour shifts for the camp. We encourage working more, but that's all you're required to do. And we have jobs for every physical ability level.
That's amazing. That misconception that you're describing, it's occurring to me how much of our minds that colors about the little bit of efforts that we could make to make our projects, our camps, Burning Man in general, more accessible to participants with disabilities. And I'm really fascinated by that because you're right. It's like this thing that a lot of us broke through, which is like breaking out of this like service mentality, like I have to do this for a payment or I have to do this because I have to. And then
Yeah.
somehow when we get on Playa, a lot of us forget that that applies to everyone, even the participants who are coming with some disabilities.
Yes. And I'll tell you, for a lot of people, this is the first time anyone's ever expected the same thing out of them as out of everybody else.
Mm. What what are maybe like an interesting experience you've had with that kind of exchange? Like what kind of feedback do you get with folks coming to that experience for the first time?
Oh, we get, like I said, especially with folks from other countries, it's
Mm.
like, oh my God, you're treating me literally just like everybody else.
Mm.
And that never
Yeah.
happens.
You don't get to be a sparkle pony no matter no matter what your
Right.
situation is. Oh my God, I love that so much. What so I want to do this. We want to get like kind of three key takeaways about how because the importance of like these conversations is like the lessons we can learn, about from Burning Man and how to take them out into the default, but also how we behave on Playa. Um,
Right.
so the question is sort of what are three key takeaways about how we do mobility on Playa, interesting things that we can learn, and how that can affect us out in the default world as well.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize that something as small as a 1x2
Mm.
to frame the outside of something now makes the inside of that completely inaccessible to a lot of people. Because in a manual wheelchair, especially on Playa,
Mm.
getting over those little barriers can be very difficult.
Oh yeah. What
And
it mhm.
I would also like people to consider not just mobility challenges. If you have an interactive thing and you have a sign telling people how to do it, consider putting on that sign Braille telling people how to do it for
Mm.
blind burners.
Yeah. 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 It's funny. When we were chatting about this before, it was occurring to me that perhaps some of the reason that folks don't even think to do this is because we get in our heads that like it needs to be all the way, like it must be this perfect, accessible, professional level setup for everything.
No,
Or what's the point to even try?
it's a process. It's a
Yeah.
process. And whatever effort you make is going to make a difference to somebody.
Yeah. And they'll appreciate that because if that
And
little bit of
and I know
effort.
a lot of people say, "Well, how many disabled people are really going to come?"
Mm.
Well, I guarantee you, if you don't make it accessible, none of them will come.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And the more accessible it becomes, the more participation you'll see from the disabled community.
Mm. And folks will talk more, and then there will be more conversations like the one that you and I are having right now, where we're sharing stories like this, and then more will hear it, and they'll feel safer to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and most of the stuff is pretty simple things if you
Hmm.
do them in the planning stage.
Hmm.
If
Yeah. Yeah.
you've already built an art car in steel and chrome and somebody wheels up and you go, oh shit, well, it's too late at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, I had a note here to ask you about like what's something that the average burner who maybe is not like a camp lead or doesn't have an art project or anything, what is something that any of us could implement either on Playa or out in the default world today to be able to more supportive of the community with disabilities?
I would say look for barriers.
Mm.
And if you're, setting up something, look at how wide the aisles are. And that you can easily do with a yardstick.
Mhm. Mhm.
If it's narrower than a yardstick, nobody in a chair is going to get through there.
Mm. That's so
Um,
interesting.
when you're talking to somebody in a chair or somebody of shorter stature,
Mhm.
drop down so you can look them in the eye and they're not cranking their neck up all day.
Right. Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so and a lot of it is just you have to kind of train your brain to notice,
Mhm.
because if you've never had experience with somebody with a disability in your family or in your friend circle, a lot of this stuff just literally never occurs to you. It's
Right.
not that you're doing it maliciously, you just don't know.
For sure. Yeah. No, a lot of what you're describing, like on Burner Podcast, for example, we've spoken quite a bit at lengths about uh, race and cultural differences. And, because this is a topic that's discussed quite often at Burning
Right.
Man, hashtag Burning Man so white kind of stuff. And yeah, a lot of that does come back to the same thing, which is if you're, if we're not spending enough time with folks that are having different experiences than us, then we just don't even think about it. So
Exactly.
the way to do it is to connect more and open up more and actually spend time more in each other's experiences. So we can think about these
Yeah.
things
I
as they're
mean,
coming.
one of our wonderful things, our camp has 2 obstacle courses. One you run in a wheelchair, one you run on crutches.
Mhm.
And after our first year, the next year, Monday morning, an artist showed up at our front desk and said, "Because I ran your obstacle course, this year my art is accessible." He said, "I
Mm.
had no idea that that little wooden border I put around the perimeter of my art piece made it completely inaccessible until I couldn't get over the friggin' 1x2 in
Yeah.
the obstacle course."
Sweet. Yeah, it's the Mahatma Gandhi had said that, how do you say, the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members.
Yes.
And
And the other one I've heard is the true test of character is how you treat people who can do nothing for you.
yeah, yeah. I had another note that I kind of made for myself after we chatted last. It's just like a reminder to myself. Love isn't measured by perfection. It's the effort that we make to show it. You know,
Yes.
like putting ourselves a little bit in somebody else's shoes and going how would I feel if this was happening? And how could I,
Yes.
how can I extend myself ever so slightly more just to make somebody feel ever so slightly more comfortable to be there?
Right. And that doesn't mean doing something for them.
Hmm.
It's making it possible for them to do it for themselves.
Right. Right. I want you to come meet me at the table. I don't want to come bring you to the table. Yeah, yeah. I love that so much. Um, yeah, I think one of the other things too that I made a note of was that the importance of communicating about accessibility more. Um,
Yes.
because folks with various disabilities and challenges often need to plan more. You know, we they, a lot of folks can't experience immediacy at the same level as others can, depending on whatever challenges they're facing.
Right. Because there are certain equipment you need to bring
Mhm.
to make it possible for you to participate.
Right, right. All right, lady. Thank you so much. It's been really interesting and lovely and lots of fun information. Packed into a super quick space. And um, I just say you have such a my favorite
And
school teacher vibe when you talk.
right. Thank
where
you.
where does that come from?
Both of my parents were educators. My
Yeah.
dad was head of the chemistry department at University of Laverne for 36 years,
Yeah.
and my mom was Christian ed director at her church. And I have done some teaching in the past. I'm an information junkie, so
Yeah.
I'm always learning new things. Along with never being too old to play, you're never too old to learn.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it.
And the other quick thing I want people to know is we
Mm,
don't just serve those people who were disabled before they got to Burning Man.
mm,
If you fell off an art piece and now you've got a broken leg and you don't want to just sit in your camp or go home, come by. We loan out wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, knee scooters, rollators.
mm. That's so lovely. I love it. Lady, thank you so very much. Your energy is so warm and sweet, and really appreciate all of the work that you do for the community and this amazing conversation. I'm really excited to share it with the world.
Great. And let people know we're there. We've been there for almost 30 years.
Yeah. We're going to share a couple of links in the show notes as well, so people can learn more and reach out to you potentially.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Hey, this has been the Dispatch. If you're having feelings and thoughts about today's chat, I want to hear them. You can DM me directly. It's at Burner Podcast. That's all one word. On Instagram, new episodes of the Burner Podcast are up monthly-ish. I say on fire time. But yeah, love, light, and all that other crap.
Welcome home.